Alrighty, man, welcome back to some more Black Ops 6. Today's video is going to be a little bit more of a rant, but I really just need to get it out of my system because I had made this tweet not that long ago. I had said that this is single-handedly keeping Black Ops 6 multiplayer from being one of the best of all time, and then it showed a picture of the Recon Specialist perk. Now, that was basically me just kind of ranting, getting it out of my system on Twitter, but I did not expect it to blow up, and some of the replies that I saw to that tweet were honestly kind of shocking. So in this video, I want to make an in-depth video kind of explaining why I feel like the Recon perk is really holding back Black Ops 6's multiplayer, and it could potentially ruin the game if nothing is done about it. Now, thankfully, I did come across this series of tweets today. I saw that FaceSwag had tweeted at Treyarch saying that they need to nerf Recon, and then Matt Scronce, who works at Treyarch, had said, incoming. And while it is pretty reassuring that Treyarch is going to step in and they're going to do something about the Recon Specialist perk in Black Ops 6, we don't know exactly what they're going to do. So in this video, I want to do an in-depth breakdown on the perk system in Black Ops 6 and share my thoughts on all of the perks in the game, and also give some feedback on what I think they could do to make this more fair and just better for the game. But real quick, before we really tear into Black Ops 6 and the perk system, I want to thank you guys so much for the amazing support on all of these Black Ops 6 videos. I have really been enjoying the game. I got through an entire prestige in the last 24 hours, like full leveling. I have really been enjoying Black Ops 6's multiplayer, and that's why I'm making this video. I want the game to be the best that it possibly can be by, you know, sharing feedback and sharing my opinions with you guys. And I definitely want you guys to share your opinions in the comments as well. But I really just cannot thank you guys enough for the amazing support on all these BO6 videos. We've been getting hundreds of subscribers. The videos have been absolutely killing it because you guys have been killing it. So if you guys do enjoy the videos, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you want to see some more BO6 stuff, and let's get into it. So I'm in a private match right now because I don't have access to every single perk in multiplayer. You have to be basically at level 55 to do that. But as just a quick overview and explanation of how perks work in Black Ops 6, we have classic red, blue, and green perks in the game. However, you do get access to a fourth specialty perk if you run 3 perks of the same color. So for example, if I put on 3 red perks, I'm now going to gain access to the Enforcer specialty. You can see right here that it says equipping 3 perks of the same combat specialty category, whether that's Enforcer, Recon, or Strategist, will activate its combat specialty. And if you're playing Black Ops 6 as multiplayer and you're not running 3 of the same colored perks, you're missing out on getting a 4th bonus perk. And the 4th bonus perks, they are pretty potent. If you have Enforcer, it says that killing enemies grants a temporary buff to movement speed and health regen rates. Now, the way that this actually works and translates in online multiplayer is that if you've taken some damage and then you kill someone, you essentially get quick fix from previous Call of Duty games, but there is a catch. The health regen rate is actually kind of slow to activate. You will not immediately get your health back, and the way that you could combat this is you could run a stim shot on your class. When you use a stim shot after taking damage, you basically immediately get your health back and you get to just get right into the next gunfight. The only thing that seems to proc immediately when you run Enforcer is getting that temporary buff to movement speed, which is not super helpful, and realistically, if you run the Warcry field upgrade, it will improve your movement speed and your health regen rate for anyone that's near you, including yourself. And if we take a look at all of the red tier perks, these are all very typical common perks that we've seen in past Call of Duty games. Gung Ho improves your sprint and tactical sprint speeds while reloading or using equipment. Dexterity reduces weapon motion while jumping, sliding, and diving. You take less fall damage. And then Scavenger allows you to resupply an ammo and equipment after you killed enemies. Pretty standard stuff for the first perk slot. If we look at perk 2, you get Assassin, which is different from previous Call of Duty games. It's not really like a stealth perk. Instead, it says enemies on a kill streak get a unique minimap marker and drop bounty packs when killed. Pick up the packs for more score, which will help you earn your score streaks. Then you have Bruiser, which is melee kills and finishing moves replenish health and earn extra score, which is really good if you're deciding to go melee only. That's it for perk slot 2. Then when you go to perk slot 3, we have Double Time, which greatly increases your attack sprint duration, and then you can run Bankroll, which will get you 150 score at the beginning of each life towards your score streaks. And then of course we have the combat specialty. And the main takeaway here with the red tier perks is that these are geared towards aggressive play. Gung Ho and Dexterity, Scavenger for going on bigger streaks and stuff like that. Assassin can also help you earn your streaks faster. Bruisers for melee only players running around the map. And then you have Double Time, which increases your attack sprints. And then you have Bankroll, which will help you earn more streaks. And then of course, having Quick Fix can be really good for aggressive play, although unfortunately in its current state, Enforcer is kind of underpowered, especially because, as I mentioned, you could just run stims or you could even run Warcry, and it kind of makes the combat specialty almost useless. But obviously the main benefits of having the combat specialty specialty is that you will get this every single time you spawn in. You don't have to wait for a field upgrade to charge, and you don't have to potentially worry about running out of stim shots. And even though the blue perks are next up here, we're going to talk about the green perks next. In perk slot 1, we have Flak Jacket, which will reduce incoming explosive and fire damage, and then you have Tac Mask, which will resist flashbangs and concussion grenades, as well as enemy neurogas. If we go to perk slot 2, you have Dispatcher and Fast Hands. Dispatcher will reduce the score cost for non-lethal kill streaks, and it stacks with Bankroll, which can be really good for getting some easy UAVs and counter UAVs. And then you have Fast Hands, which allows you to swap weapons faster and extends the fuses of throwing back grenades. And then for perk slot 3, we have Quartermaster, which will recharge your equipment's uses over time. We have Guardian, which will give you faster healing while capturing and holding objectives, as well as reviving downed teammates faster. And then we ended off here with Gearhead, which is an extremely strong perk. You get 2 field upgrade charges, and it also charges them faster. You can also hack enemy equipment and field upgrades, and you can booby trap care packages. Really strong perk. You get this one pretty late into the game. And real quick, I have to put on all 3 of the green perks so we can activate its combat specialty. And now that I've done that, we got access to the Strategist combat specialty. You earn a score bonus for objectives and destroying enemy equipment. You can see enemy equipment through walls, and you can deploy equipment and field upgrades faster. And to be perfectly honest, there are some similarities between the green and red tier perks. There are perks in here that can obviously help buff your soldier, like having Flak Jacket and Tac Mask. It's good for aggressive play, but I think the main difference between Strategist and Enforcer is that Enforcer is more useful if you're playing like Team Deathmatch or Free-for-all, whereas the green tier perks are just absolutely goated for playing objective respawn game modes. The Strategist combat specialty is absolutely insane right now for XP gains, for getting easy score streaks, and ultimately just being a really good team player. And I feel like if you run all red perks or all green perks, this is what you look like.
You are a true Giga Chad.
And then that leaves us with the blue perks. So let's talk about what we have going on here. In the first perk slot, we have Ghost and Ninja. And the description for Ghost says, you're undetectable by enemy scout pulse and UAVs when moving, planting, defusing, or controlling score streaks. You're undetectable by the proximity alarm. And then for Ninja, you move more quietly. And then we have 3 different perks here in perk slot 2. You have Engineer, which allows you to... The lobby timed out. Cool. Not exactly sure why my private match crashed, but anyway, we're on the second tier perks, and we're starting off here with Engineer. It lets you see enemy equipment and score streaks through walls and enemy score streak icons on the minimap. We have Tracker, which lets you see enemy footsteps. Aiming down sights will also auto-ping enemies, and there's a long cooldown between those pings. And then we have Forward Intel, which increases the minimap area and shows direction indicators for revealed enemies, although I think this is kind of bugged out right now, especially with the advanced UAV pings from Harps, as well as when you're playing Kill Order. But anyway, we're moving on here to perk 3, which is Vigilance. Display a HUD icon whenever you appear on enemy minimaps. You're also fully immune to counter UAVs and Scrambler, and you're fully immune to sleeper agents. And then we have Cold-Blooded. You're undetectable by AI targeting and thermals, and player-controlled score streaks don't highlight you. If you run 3 blue tier perks, you get access to this, which I think is currently just broken in the game. The Recon combat specialty says, enemies can be seen through walls for a short time after respawn. A HUD edge indicator flashes when an enemy is outside your view, and you also leave no death skulls when killing enemies. I'm really trying to hold my tongue here. I don't want to stir the pot too much, but I do want to say this much about the blue perks in Black Ops 6. In their current state, the way that they're currently balanced, I feel like the blue perks in Black Ops 6, they are kind of for noobs. Now, you don't have to be a noob to run the blue tier perks, and if anything, if you're a good Call of Duty player, if you run the blue tier perks in certain situations, you can absolutely destroy enemies while running these perks. But the reason why I'm saying that the blue perks, especially this recon bonus, is kind of more for noobs is because this wall hack ability that lets you see enemies through walls for roughly 3 to 4 seconds whenever you spawn in is basically one of the noobiest death streaks we've ever had in a Call of Duty game. I've seen some people say, well, why didn't you complain about Vision Pulse in Black Ops 3 or Black Ops 4? And that's because that's a specialist ability that you had to choose. You had to run that, and you didn't get it every single time you died. You had to wait for it to charge up, and if you used it at the wrong moment, it could actually just be a massive waste, much like all of the other specialists in the game. That's just how those games worked, and we can't really make that comparison to what we have here. The way that Recon works, specifically the wall hack ability, this is a death streak, and it's super fucking cheap. But I will admit that it's not cheap or broken in a lot of different scenarios in Black Ops 6. The place where this is really the worst is if you play hardcore face-off. Now, I know that's not something that everyone plays. However, if you've been playing Nuketown, or Hardcore Nuketown, obviously Face-Off as well. If you've been playing these smaller map experiences, there's a good chance that you have been running around the map and you've been in a scenario where you've gotten shot through a wall, or maybe you've been killed by an enemy that you absolutely could not see, and you're probably wondering, well, how could they see me? And this is the answer right here. They most likely had full blue perks and they could see you through a wall, and the second that they respawned, they just started spraying, they just started shooting you. This whole temporary wall hack ability, like having this even in the game, I kind of feel like is a red flag. I don't know why we need to have any kind of wall hack abilities in a Black Ops game that's set in the 90s. It's honestly really strange. It doesn't really make sense for the identity of the game. It doesn't play out well on these small map experiences, and it's gotten to a point where if you get into a really sweaty lobby, especially in hardcore face-off, almost everyone is using this perk setup, and almost everyone is just pre-firing each other through walls immediately out of spawn, and it completely, utterly destroys the map flow and any semblance of the Call of Duty experience. It's just terrible. Now, before I tear into this any further, I do want to just say that I don't have any issue with the whole like HUD edge indicator or not showing death skulls when you kill enemies. I don't really feel like that's as big of an issue. If the Recon combat specialty didn't even have this first sentence, if it didn't have this first ability here, I probably wouldn't be making this video right now. But in its current state, this Recon wall hack has got to go. It's honestly just terrible. But I'm gonna kind of just tone it back here for a second, and I want to, you know, fully explain my thoughts on what Treyarch could do with this. Now, they do already have some kind of nerf plans. We already know that it is coming, but I do want to share my thoughts on really why I think it's so bad beyond just the fact that it allows for cheap kills, because it does go a little bit deeper than that. If we look at the Enforcer combat specialty specifically, being able to kill enemies and getting a temporary buff to your movement speed and health regen rates could be really good, but in its current state, it's just not all that powerful. And realistically, there doesn't really need to be anything in the game to counter this combat specialty. And kind of to a lesser degree, the same thing applies for the green perks as well. If someone's running Strategist, you don't necessarily have to run something to counter this combat specialty, or even potentially the green perks. If someone's using Flak Jacket, you can just spam flashbangs at them. If they're running Tag Mask, you can spam grenades at them. If they're earning a ton of score streaks and you're getting annoyed with that, put on a launcher, start working on your launcher camos. And going back to the red perks, there's not a lot of things in this category that really need to be countered. Like, why would we need to counter double time? How do you counter that? You just don't need to. And that is where everything changes when it comes to the blue perks in the game. There are a couple of issues with this perk category entirely. The main thing being that almost every blue tier perk in this game counters something. Like, really hard. Ghost is a hard counter to scout pulses and especially UAVs, as well as the prox alarm. Ninja is a hard counter to footsteps, and it's almost kind of a crutch in this game. Like, a lot of people feel like they need to hide their footsteps to be able to run around the map, which I totally understand. I do think that they could consider rebalancing it, but Ninja and footstep volume is not the main focus of this video. But if we look at some of the other perks in the game, Engineer is kind of useless. I feel like this mostly just gets used as an early tier perk so people can get access to Recon's combat specialty a little bit faster. Tracker is okay. Same thing with forward intel. Honestly, the blue tier 2 perks are, I guess, kind of weak. But overall, for the second tier perks for blue, it is a little weak. Like, Tracker's okay. But not enough people are talking about this either. The Vigilance perk. This is something that I feel like is actually, it could potentially be a really bad thing in the game. Having immunity to counter UAVs and scramblers isn't nearly as bad, but being immune to sleeper agents, I feel like, is actually really powerful. Because if you have to choose between Vigilance and Cold-Blooded, you don't really need to use Cold-Blooded if you're playing hardcore face-off, or even just face-off in general, because you can't earn score streaks in there. So most people are using Vigilance, which means that Sleeper Agent as a field upgrade is also now just useless, which is not great, but ultimately we need to talk about the Recon combat specialty. And I promise you guys, I'm not trying to drag this out for too long. I just want to be very thorough here and kind of prove a point. If you look at Recon and Enforcer and Strategist as combat specialties and all of the existing perks in the game, you might have noticed that there is literally nothing to counter the wall hacks every single time someone dies in this game. There's no perk, there's no combat specialty, there's no equipment. There's literally nothing in the game that stops the wall hacks from working. So there's nothing that you can do as a player to stop this bullshit from happening. Which is why some people will say, well, just run Recon back. Wow, that's great. So now we're gonna stack full 12-man lobbies of everyone using wall hacks every single time they die. And that is exactly why the experience has gotten so bad in face-off. It's because everyone feels like they have to use this because there is no direct hard counter for this thing in the game. It's terrible. And I did see some people saying, oh, Ghost is bugged. It says in the description it's supposed to counter the combat specialty Recon. Are you kidding me? Every single perk at the end says combat specialty Recon. There is literally nothing in the game that says anything about countering the combat specialty. Cold-blooded makes you undetected by AI targeting and thermals, and player-controlled score streaks won't highlight you. Ghost makes you undetected by scout pulses and UAVs, and it also makes you undetectable by prox alarms. It would also make absolutely no sense for any kind of blue perk in the game at all to directly counter recon, because that would basically just make this entire thing useless. If you had to run blue perks to counter the blue perk combat specialty, that would just nullify everything and be totally useless. If there was going to be some kind of counter, it would have to be in the red tier perks or in the green tier perks. And in my opinion, if this was in the green tier perks, I feel like this could potentially heavily throw off the balance, because I really do feel like the green tier perks are in a sense underrated and very useful, whereas the red tier perks, while having quick fix every single time you spawn in is nice, it's kind of underpowered at the moment. So if there was a counter for the recon combat specialty, I feel like it should belong in the red tier perk category somewhere. But man, oh man, it does go a little bit deeper than that. As it currently stands in Black Ops 6, there's also nothing in the... We got kicked out again. There's nothing in the game that can counter high alerts. There's no perk that you can run that will stop you from showing up on the outer edge of someone's HUD with high alert. Yo, it is not remembering my perks in private match. That's actually kind of crazy. The main takeaway and the key point of the video is this. There is no direct counter to the recon combat specialty currently in Black Ops 6. There's no perk, there's no tactical or field upgrade, there's nothing you can use to counter what this thing can do. There's nothing you can do to counter the wall hacks every single time someone dies, and there's nothing you can use to counter the high alert from showing up on the enemy's screen. This kind of seems like a massive oversight, and I don't know why the game wasn't balanced in such a way to have something in the game to counter this, but I will offer up my suggestions on what they could do to rebalance this, although I'm pretty sure Treyarch has something in mind, and we're going to see very soon what they decide to do to rebalance recon. My first suggestion is to leave recon exactly how it is, but add some kind of direct counter for it in the game, and realistically, it should probably be either in the red tier perks or the green tier perks, but I feel like for the sake of balance, it would make more sense to put it in the red tier, because red tier perks right now are just, they're not useless, but they're just not as strong as the blue and green perks are in their current state. My second suggestion would be to just get rid of the wall hacks, because realistically, do we need this? To all the people on Twitter that were defending this and saying that I need to just get good or I need to stop camping, what happens when you go to play a different FPS game that doesn't have some cheese bullshit like this in the game? Realistically, this recon combat specialty is allowing people who otherwise wouldn't be able to get these kills to be able to pull it off. They're shooting me through walls, I'm trying to push their spawns, and they're shooting me out of their spawn because I show up as a giant orange-red blob that they can see through walls. That's fucking wild. But joking aside, if this wasn't in the game, there just wouldn't really be an issue. There wouldn't be a complaint. And if they were to just simply take it away, I wouldn't have a problem. I don't need this crutch. I don't need this stupidly powerful death streak that lets me see enemies through walls to be in any game, not just Black Ops 6. Because realistically, if you go back to any other Call of Duty game, you're just not going to have anything quite like this. And while it is kind of unique to Black Ops 6 in a sense, it's mostly just cheap, and over time, this is just gonna frustrate everyone to the point of wanting to quit the game. Now, it is worth mentioning that this does mostly plague Face-Off, and I gotta say, I loved Face-Off in Cold War. It was one of my favorite things to play in multiplayer, and if I were to go back and play Cold War, I wouldn't have any issues playing Face-Off because nothing like this exists in the game. It's just currently affecting Black Ops 6's multiplayer experience, especially on the smaller maps. But I know there are some instances and there are some certain circumstances where this just isn't as useful. I've seen some people say that Recon is just not that good in search and destroy. And that's gonna bring me to my third suggestion, and I think it's potentially what they are going to consider doing, which is still removing the wall hack ability, but ultimately replacing it with something else, like having a UAV sweep on the minimap for 3 to 4 seconds. It could be a regular UAV minimap sweep, or it could be like a harp, like the advanced UAV. It could show the actual locations or directions that the enemies are facing. They could do that instead. And me personally, I wouldn't really have an issue with this, because if you're playing hardcore, the ability itself might not even work because there is no minimap. But even if it did just temporarily show a minimap in hardcore for like a couple of seconds, I wouldn't really have an issue, because that would mean that the player has to move their focus to the minimap instead, and then focus back on where they need to aim and stuff. Whereas with the current state of things, where they have wall hacks, they don't need to check a minimap. They just need to point their gun straight in the direction of wherever they're wall hacking someone with this ability. So yeah, if Treyarch decided to do that instead, I would be okay with it, because it's just a completely different experience, and it's not the same as what we have right now in the game. Oh my god, man. Like, I know I'm probably coming across as like the biggest hater of this perk, right? And that's why I feel like my first suggestion is the most reasonable. It does give people a chance to play around and have some fun with this ability before it could potentially get removed or changed or nerfed or something. And that's that's why I personally feel like the best thing they could do is just add some kind of counter that could, you know, either be a hard direct counter that could fully stop the wall hacks from happening, or at least just reduce the amount of time that it shows up for. Like, I'd be totally fine if there was like a red or a green tier perk that could reduce the wall hacks to like maybe a half a second or 1 second. But like 3 to 4 seconds of having a full outline of the enemy and it also shows where they're running is just, it's crazy. And I still just can't believe that this is basically a death streak. Like, we have death streaks back in the game, but just for one perk category. It's ridiculous. I gotta say though, man, I'm absolutely fascinated with this whole thing. Like, I still am really enjoying Black Ops 6's multiplayer. I'm adapting. I'm still gonna play it. It's not like it's the end of the world. But if this thing were to just never get rebalanced and they weren't gonna do anything about it, I do feel like it could be a really, really big problem for the longevity of Black Ops 6. And that's why I think it's really sick that Treyarch is going to do something about it at some point. We don't know exactly what, and we don't know when, but I'm just saying, man, I'm running full green perks right now. I'm getting the most amount of XP, and I feel like this is just really the way to go. At least if you're not playing face-off mosh pit, which I'm trying to avoid like the plague because I'm tired of getting shot through walls. But that is gonna do it for my little rants here on Black Ops 6. Thank you guys very much for watching. Definitely let me know in the comments what you think about the Recon Blue perk stuff in the game, and let me know how you think it should be rebalanced, if you think it needs any kind of rebalancing at all. And if you guys did enjoy this video and you want to see some more Black Ops 6 stuff, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys later.
Outcome. Train going.